This is the Commercial Landscapers Podcast, hosted by Dave Anderson and Robert Klinkenbeard. This show will absolutely transform your leadership by developing all aspects of your life in business, family, personal and health. Only by fine-tuning yourself will you truly operate as a highly functioning leader. Good morning, Robert Klinkenbeard with the Commercial Landscapers Podcast. I'm really excited this morning to bring on Daniel Currin. Welcome, Daniel.
Hey, Robert. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. So, Daniel, for our audience, tell me a little bit about your background.
Yeah. Daniel Currin, CEO of Greenscape out of Raleigh, North Carolina. We're about a $15 million organization right now, down a little bit in the past several months, like probably a lot of people. But 180 employees. We are celebrating our 41st year in business. Greenscape was family business, or is a family business that started by my father, Michael, back in 1979. And he let me take over about 10 or 11 years ago in the CEO role. And I've had the honor to kind of steward the company since then.
Cool. So what was that an easy transition for you? Just step into his seat and keep going the way he's been doing it, or how?
Yeah. No, it was not. It was. I mean, I think you've got plenty of family dynamics in there, but you also have. At the time was 2008, 2009, and so we had the recession, the Great Recession going on, and at the time we were probably 70-80% residential focused versus now we're 100% commercial focused. And so that was, my first year was pretty intense with, a lot of design build residential construction falling off as people's equity lines dried up and that part of the business kind of going away. It took me probably seven plus years to kind of transition the business to what it is now. We're commercial focused. Most 70% of that's probably contract maintenance work with recurring revenue, which is great, and about 30% construction work, which continues to hold up during the pandemic.
That's cool. Talk to me. I've got a couple of questions that came out from that, but talk first of all about that transition you made through 2008-9, and obviously here we are in the thick of the pandemic. And how that has helped, or maybe it's not helped with where you stand right now.
Yeah. The funny thing is, so as after that experience in 2008-9, and kind of really not wanting to go through that again, or be in a better position to go through that again, felt pivoting to the commercial, opportunities in the marketplace was going to be a better fit and financially be more stable. And I think what's kind of funny is if we had the same company revenue customer makeup now as we had in 2008, we'd probably be in a better position. We'd probably be having a banner year.
Oh, wow.
We'd be a lot smaller, but everyone who does residential construction, I think with everyone at home, people have invested huge money in the last several months in their backyards, and since they're not taking vacations and things like that. And so we've kind of missed that opportunity. But, most of our commercial customers have stayed pretty stable, have not cut services and things like that, maybe have backed down on some of the extras and things that, we'd like to sell them on top of their contracts. And our really biggest hit probably was on the commercial construction side. A lot of projects got slowed down and kind of got pushed back. So middle of the year was not great for us there, but it looks like the back half of the year will be really good. And probably one of our biggest challenges right now is trying to figure out how to slam in as much revenue as we can with the opportunities that we have over the next 4 or 5 months, right. Which is it's a good problem to have, much better problem than we had in April, May. So
right, yeah, that's true. So talk about maybe some of the pivots that you've made over the last couple of months. You've obviously, everybody's been trying to figure out where the market's going, what changes are there. I mean, this is obviously something that nobody's experienced before. What type of pivots have you made?
Yeah, I think for us, some internal pivots we made were, as the construction kind of got slowed down, we had resources and people that typically are focused there. We were able to kind of slide them into the maintenance side of our business, partly due to the seasonality of that and everything, which is a good short-term solution, not a good long-term one. But something I learned in 2008 and 9 was, pain causes, pain for customers causes like a reason for them to make a change. And so 2008 and 9 were great years for adding new customers to our portfolio because, people had been working with one service provider for a long time. They needed to lower cost, and they had to lower it pretty significantly, not just a couple points, but maybe 20% or more. And so they went kind of back out to the marketplace to figure out who could help them do that. And so I think the same thing has occurred in the last several months that we've seen, where people have needed to, certain segments in the commercial world have needed to lower cost. And so they've been open to new conversations and new service providers to do that. I think the hard thing has been how do you connect with people right now? So much of the commercial marketing that we've traditionally done is it's networking and face-to-face and professional events and things like that, which have all kind of gone away. And so our challenge has really been, how our salespeople without those things still connect to the potential customers that are in pain and have needs that we can help them with. And that's kind of been, I would say we have not figured that out, but we are trying to figure it out.
Well, that's actually a good point because, when you think about it, communication is that's one of the biggest complaints I hear as organizations grow is that poor communication. But here you are now, you've got two challenges. You've got communication internally, especially if you've got some people working remotely. Mm-hmm. And you've got communication with your clients. You're trying to make sure they're being serviced. So, I know you haven't figured that out yet, but even internally, how are you, keeping that culture alive?
Yeah, good question, because we've thought about that a lot. We had implemented in the last 2 years, maybe. Our core values are communication, learning, appreciation, teamwork, and safety. And we have an acronym of CLEATS that we use to talk about those. And so once a week, each branch has a CLEATS day where, kind of 4 of those a month, and one topic is kind of covered in each one of those days. So communication, they can have an internal small branch town hall. Learning, there's a training day. There's this one afternoon is focused on safety, and then one is just focused on appreciation, if that's food or games or whatnot. And that's worked out really well from a cultural standpoint of building culture, and has improved our retention of our employee base, and people just feeling connected. And so one of the first things we had to cut with the pandemic was our CLEATS day. And so, because we couldn't, get 50 people together, and we couldn't meet inside and do all those things that were kind of outlawed.
Right.
And so at first it wasn't a big deal. Like the first couple of months of the pandemic, we probably lived off a lot of the kind of cultural bank that we had built over the last several years. And then more recently, we've started to see kind of retention or turnover kind of step up a little bit, and some of our safety metrics kind of going the wrong way. And so we learned 2 things. One, those CLEATS days, which were it's sometimes hard to measure what the return is on those.
Right.
When you stop doing them, you start to easily be able to measure maybe
Right.
the
Yep.
negative side of those. And then we realized, man, we got to figure out how to overcome that. So it's like, we know the result we want. We know what we want to, we know what we want our culture to look like. We just kind of, the mechanism that we're using just still is not doable. So we have decided that, so we've been working through that. And so we have virtual town halls now and try to communicate with the team that way. And we've been doing those both. We've tried to make them interactive. We do breakout rooms and polls and just try to engage people versus just sit on a webinar, for 30 minutes. We have been doing cleat days in small numbers because we can do 10 people in North Carolina. So we are doing one or two, or probably two crews at a time, and just those two crews have 1 day a month now versus 4 days a month, and getting back into like, okay, we can do that now. It's way better than zero. And then we've looked at some appreciation things, how to appreciate people, differently with we have our Green Team Dreams program, which we stole from John Ratliff at Apple Tree of his Dream On program.
That's a good program.
It's a phenomenal program. And so we've actually upped the number of dreams that we're granting right now to individual employees. And so that continues to have an impact on individuals and the team.
Yeah, they would enjoy that.
What'd you
say? They would enjoy that.
Yeah.
Just up in that program.
Yeah, the program's simple, but very intentional. So we, in each of our branches, we have a dream box where folks can put in a request for a dream or nominate one of their coworkers for a dream. And usually a dream is less than $1,000, probably closer to 500 or so. And they are all over the place. I mean, we've helped people visit family that they haven't seen in years. We've helped people take care of maybe some bills that were having a negative impact on their family, being able to kind of get back to even, just anything that folks have requested. So it's been all over the place, and we just kind of facilitate granting those dreams for them versus dictating what they should be.
That's an awesome program. I love it. I'm sure the employees really appreciate that. If obviously we're still not out of the whole pandemic yet, but if you were to think back and think, how would I deal with things differently? How would I position the company best to go through one of these, whatever you want to call it, recessions, downturns, major challenges? What would be the 2 or 3 things that you would?
Cash, always cash.
Yeah.
Giving yourself as long a runway as possible. And we were in a good position balance sheet wise without the PPP loan, and have a great partnership with our bank who has helped a lot. And then the PPP loan has been interesting because I've thought about that a lot. Has it caused me to delay better decisions because I had that buffer, or is it helping me stay on track so that when this is over, we're we're much farther ahead of where we would be.
Right.
So at this point, I've taken the mentality of like, we're still investing, we're still, we've been expanding our sales team and put a lot of energy and effort there, feeling like there was an opportunity in the marketplace for them to get results. We've pulled back on everything that's non-people related and tried to keep the people in place.
Right.
And so most of our overhead cuts and things like that are really have not been in positions, but have been in, things, whether we can just live without them or we just are delaying that expense for as long as we can. So, looking forward to my next pandemic, things I would do different. I think I'm still, the toll on people is going to be I think we got to get a little bit farther away, but I think we're seeing that, there's a lot of stress in people's lives. I think it's kind of this almost need to go slow to go fast mentality. And we've really been trying to help people and almost forcing people to take some time off. We probably usually, like on a quarterly basis, we have 7+ initiatives that we're working on, and we're kind of backing those down to really what are the things that really matter, so that people have capacity to deal with the unforeseen changes that pop up,
right.
Which were popping up a lot in the beginning, and slowed down some, but still, every day you kind of just you're waiting for your phone to ring with the new a new one that you haven't had before.
Right. Talk about you talked about expanding, taking advantage of opportunities, and one of your tactics there was to expand your sales force. Now, you and I talked earlier about how you decided to go outside of the industry. So, because I think a lot of people get so focused up on sticking in the industry, they must have industry experience, but why did you feel comfortable going outside of the industry?
Yeah, I think, our industry, most people get into it from the operations side. They love being outside. They love the work that we do. They get started there, and then as they want to kind of grow their careers and take kind of steps that lead to, to higher salary for them, they kind of have to start to do the other disciplines that are non-operational a lot of times. So a lot of people then move into sales, and so really our industry is probably full of some really average salespeople because we're not very good at training salespeople.
Right.
And no one actually, got into the industry kind of from the sales side. Typically, they got, they kind of moved into it. And so we always get the one-offs who are great performers, and we've got a couple of those guys who are from the industry and have really worked hard on developing their skill sets to be good at sales. But this time we just felt like we could probably shortcut that and look for some sales expertise outside of the industry. So what we kind of targeted on was somebody who knew our customers. Maybe they didn't know our services and products, but they knew our customers. They were familiar with the commercial space and real estate and all that. And so we found a guy that was just kind of off to the side in a different industry that was hammered by the pandemic. And so his sales were down, but nothing to do with his capabilities because he had a really good track record. And so we brought him on board. And so, we knew we could teach him landscaping, and we're hoping to learn some sales from him too.
Right. Is it working out good so far?
Yeah.
Too early to say.
No, it's not too early. He's, I think sometimes you bring on a sales guy, you say, hey, 3 months before he knows what he's doing, 6 months before he makes a sale, and a year before he actually can pay for himself. I think he made a sale within the first 2 months and has got a pipeline already, and he is doing great.
That's awesome. So continue that theme about, looking outside the industry. I mean, you and I, we're both in EO. We have access to other business owners in different industries. We hear speakers from, all around the US, even all around the world, and it just exposes us to other trends. But talk a little bit about you, just what your view is on the landscape industry as a whole, the learning within that landscape industry, and what opportunities there are.
So opportunities to improve that?
Yeah.
I think I'm a big Dr. Bell follower from the Bell Leadership Institute out of Chapel Hill, and actually just recently was talking to him about selection and hiring, and he talks about, everyone needs three major skill sets: technical, commitment, and then their personality and leadership skill set. And from a hiring standpoint, the commitment one is the number one piece, and then two probably would be, or next would be the personality and leadership side of it, skills they need, and probably lastly is the technical skills. And he kind of says, when you're filling a position, you're looking for about an 80% match, and really where the gap can be the greatest probably is on the technical skill side for most jobs, because you probably have the ability to train that person on that. So if you find a person with the great commitment skills and has got the leadership skills that the job needs, even if it's down to a 70% match, you fill that gap with your internal training of that person. And I think historically our industry has been like the reverse of that. We look at the technical skills, almost needing to match up 100%, and then we probably go leadership next, and then commitment potentially maybe last. And so I think we're kind of doing that slightly backwards. But when you do it the way we've been doing it, it really points you to only a very small pool in the marketplace you can hire from. You've got to hire from within the landscape industry when people need to match up 100% on the technical skill side. But when you reverse that, you really widen the pool of applicants that you can look at, for different positions and things like that. And that's what we're trying to do, and trying to find people outside the industry that have high commitment skills, they've got the personality leadership skills needed for the position, and then at least have the aptitude for the technical side that they're gonna need to have, and we'll help them fill that gap.
Right. And how successful have you been so far? I mean, have you hired people using that formula? And is that?
Yeah, I think that's where, the sales guy we talked about earlier, definitely, we followed that formula with him. All the true non-operational positions, that's very easy to do on your finance and admin side of the business, on the sales side, marketing and all of that. Within the operational side, that's been, we've started looking at that more in the entry-level position. As the market has gotten really tight on labor and entry-level workers, we've just seen like we've got to decrease our emphasis on the technical skills and put the onus on training those and helping people learn those on ourselves, and look for people who are committed, want a job, can check all those boxes, can be a part of a team and work in, have a teamwork approach, and then we'll teach you the details on the technical side of the job.
Right.
And that's starting to have an impact. By no means do we have the labor situation figured out, but anything we can do to pull from a bigger pool, we feel like gives us a better opportunity to, to get the people that we need.
Yeah, because I think some people have just been solely focused on the H2B program, and obviously every single year there seems to be challenges with that program. So
yeah, and we have been big users of H2B in the past and love the idea of the program, don't love the program. This past year we've kind of dipped our toe in previous years of pulling folks out of Puerto Rico, and then this year kind of went full in on that and had a lot of success. And that's a pretty good example where a lot of the folks we're pulling don't have a huge landscape background by any means, but they are coming from a more agrarian community, and they're showing we can find people with commitment skills and people who can work on in crews, on teams, and then we're training them when they're getting here. And so that actually worked well for us early in the spring. Unfortunately, flights to Puerto Rico aren't as prevalent as they used to be.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
challenging to move people around the country, but we feel confident in our ability to make that program work, and as things kind of go back to a more normal situation.
Cool, awesome. Well, we're coming to a close here, Danielle. If people wanted to reach out to you and talk to you more about either your hiring process or your labor pool, how would they get in touch with you?
Yeah, my email is by far the best way to get in touch with me, which is just dcurrin@greenscapeinc.com. Be happy to talk to anybody who is interested.
Okay, awesome, cool. Thank you very much, Daniel. Really appreciate your time today. Really enjoyed this talking to you.
Yeah, it was great.
This was the Commercial Landscaper podcast, hosted by Dave Anderson, author of Leader is Not a Title, and Robert Klinkenbeard, author of The Ironman Mindset for Entrepreneurs. You can find more details about the show and the hosts at the radixgroupllc.com or thecommerciallandscaper.com.